the ability of a computer machine or a computer engine to carry out this same set of tasks is the concept of artificial intelligence. It has to do everything that has to do with artificial intelligence. So what this tells us is that every single thing from even showing emotion to our loved ones, to running errands, to carrying out multiple tasks at the same time, every single thing, some of these things that we do. For example, I'm sure that some of us will perhaps have a reminder on our smartphone. So you set a reminder, remind me by 5 p.m. to talk to someone, or to talk to my dad, to talk to my mom, or to talk to my children. That action itself is powered by artificial intelligence, because by that time, by 5 p.m., you get a reminder that tells you that this is what you need to be doing at this time. And so it's an interesting concept, especially because as we cross into this new year, there's been a lot of shifts. I'm sure that many of us on this call coming into the year would have seen this very popular trend that happened around January, where a lot of people had artificial intelligence generated pictures, profile pictures. It became a trend. Virtually everyone was changing their display picture, having an AI generated image. And what did you need to do at the time? All you needed was to upload one of the picture, and these two create simulations, it creates variants, it creates kinds, it creates all forms of other pictures that you can use as a display or profile picture. And this is an interesting use case for the concept around artificial intelligence. It's an interesting use case for how AI has come to stay this year. From 2022, when we're discussing trends, predicting trends to look out for in 2022, conversations were around Web3, were around cryptocurrency, were around the bull market at some point, and it was very big. For 2023, it took the world by storm, because people did not even realize that AI would become part of us this much. And then when this profile maker, picture profile, profile picture maker became a commonplace for even those who are using WhatsApp for the first time, they got onto it and they took advantage of it. It sent signals across the globe that AI has come to stay. And even though people have fears that, oh, AI will take jobs and the likes, some of us believe that we never can tell. We just need to evolve our job roles. We just need to evolve our skill sets. We just need to update our skill sets. And then it's also an interesting development when you realize that if you have followed startup stories, and you realize that this startup on our screen right now, this startup presently, I can tell you, does not have a single product. This startup does not have a single product. So it means that this startup has not shipped one product to the market. This startup does not have $1 as revenue. They have not made $1 for the shareholders. They have not made $1 in revenue. But guess what? This same startup has raised Series C at $100 million. Now, what this development or this trend shows to us is how important people are looking into AI for the now and the future. Before now, we can perhaps look at AI as something that would be for the future. I grew up in a world where I was watching Iron Man, and then I see Iron Man having conversation with Jarvis, and in my head, I would think that, oh, this is something that can only happen in the future. But that same future that we were envisaging as children, we were looking forward to as children, as younger folks, has come to stay with us. So this means that the future for AI, the application and the development of AI is now. We need to integrate artificial intelligence into our professional dealings, as well as our relationship with different stakeholders. And this leads me to ask them to have the conversation around who are the various stakeholder groups. Now, if you work in corporate, you know We have internal stakeholders, we have external stakeholders. Now, both, as much as we have internal and external stakeholders in corporate, we also have the same in governance. Now, for internal stakeholders in corporate, you would have employees, you would have managers, you would have owners, you would have executive board management. Now, for similar thing now, for a Lagos state government, for example, their internal stakeholders will be staff and employees of the LASG that work in Alausa or the various local governments. Those are their critical internal stakeholders. Now, for example, for a CBN, as it is, their internal stakeholders will be employees of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And then external stakeholders in this case would mean everyone who is a citizen. Now, for the government, for a Lagos state government, for example, everyone who is a citizen is a stakeholder now. Everyone, you cannot dig it further, double click on it and say to yourself, perhaps everyone who is over 18, who is eligible to vote at the ballot, is a more critical stakeholder. Now, because their views can shape others, or shape other people's views, their opinions can shape other people's opinions and the likes now. So it's important to understand that these two stakeholder groups, there are different approaches in communicating with them, in engaging with them, in passing on information, in passing on reverence, in sharing information with them. And while this is important, now in the next set of slides, we'll be looking at how exactly can we do this using artificial intelligence. Now, let me rehash something that is very critical in this conversation, which is that artificial intelligence is simply using a computer learning to carry out tasks that humans would ideally carry out. So this means that the way we would ideally communicate, for example, many of us remember this story very well, and that's why I didn't even put it on the slide. This story around the CBN trying to phase out a portion of our currency in the country, and they had to tell the public. It leaked to the public. Now, this is a very interesting use case because this story is very, for me, every time I think about it, I think about how low we have managed communication when it comes to the citizenry, and how better these things could have been done. And the reality is that a lot of people found out about that action by the CBN via an internal memo. In fact, as a matter of fact, for a lot of the press people who went to press with the news, with the story, who even broke the story, their source is an internal memo from the Apex Bank's governor to the bank's GMs or MDs. And for me, I find that very exciting, or very, very, very interesting, because that is a way to communicate to the internal stakeholders of the CBN. But I'll bet they've communicated to the internal stakeholders and left the external stakeholders at bar. And what that meant was that the external stakeholders reacted in a very out of the box manner to that policy, and which is what we are still experiencing at this point in time. Now, so we can talk about how they could have communicated better to even their own internal stakeholders who are the bank MDs, or how they could have communicated better to the citizenry who would be affected, who would be directly affected by this policy. But what we'll be focusing on here in this conversation is how they could have used artificial intelligence to drive that communication. Now, one of the critical things that AI can help us do is to automate our routine comms. So now, routine comms can involve sending updates. Now, just like the story I just narrated, it was an update. There had been a physical meeting. Excuse me, please. There had been a physical meeting about that topic, and what was just being communicated was an update. Now, interestingly, this update was just to the bank MDs. But one way or the other, this memo, this comms leaked to the press, and it became not just for the MDs, now for the public, which were totally two different kind of stakeholders. And in this case, because they've communicated what was meant for the internal stakeholders, for the external stakeholders, they've created chaos as a result of the communication. So now, We can use AI to automate routine communications. Now, communications tasks that are repetitive, reminders, we can use AI. Now, how do we use AI? For example, now, let me. I'm sure that this story is also something that that we're all, if not all, familiar with, or we have now come to read about, or get more information about the unfortunate fatal accident that happened just somewhere on the mainland here in Lagos, where about 6 people have now been reported dead and others have been injured, and it's become a medical emergency for the state. Unfortunate incident. It has happened. It could have been avoided, but it has happened. Now, for example, for a tool like the ChatGPT, which is an AI tool, that the government would have used this tool to create an immediate press release. Now, typically, traditionally, you want to produce a press release. If you're not doing it in-house, you contact an agency. Now, the agency, if they are on retainer, they commission a junior writer or a senior writer or something in-house to write the release, the communication assistant or executive to write the release. They write the release, they share with you for approval. You give reverts, they go back, they make it better, and at the end of the day, you spend, say, maybe roughly, if the bureaucracy is minimal, you spend roughly maybe 1-2 hours. If the bureaucracy is minimal, you take away every form of bureaucracy, and then you spend roughly 1 or 2 hours coming up with a press release to be published, because there's now an incident that has happened that has taken lives. And then as the government, you want to sound sorry, you want to show empathy, you want to patronize the public, you want to show that you are with the people. So now, the use of AI can get you this release in less than 1 minute. So this means that you have to shorten the time, say, the best case scenario, 2 hours, which should have taken back and forth with the agency, with the PR agency. I've shortened it into 1 minute just using ChatGPT. Now, the beauty of this AI, artificial intelligence tool, is that you describe, if you look at my screen, you see the prompt: create a press release for the Lagos State government on a fatal accident that happened between a train and a government bus. Be empathetic, be sorry, polite, and patronizing to the public. Now, in less than a minute, this AI tool displays a full press-on release that reads: for immediate release, expresses deep condolences over fatal incidents involving train and government bus. And then it goes on and on with the release. Now, so it means that in less than 1 minute, the government can take this release, can take this press release, publish it, send it to the media houses, get it published, and the government will be seen to be very, very responsive, very, very empathetic towards the citizens. Now, if this release had been made to go through the usual traditional process of someone writing it and then sending it back for a vet and then also going back to improve on it, you would spend 2 hours, and then the citizens would feel, oh, the government hasn't said anything about this this accident. Maybe the government doesn't care about the people that lost their lives and those who got injured. So artificial intelligence is critical, is essential to how a government can carry along its citizens, how even us as professionals can do our jobs in faster and achieve faster turnaround times. So now, this is a pointer. Now, this tool is called ChatGPT. It's a tool released by OpenAI. OpenAI is one of the leading artificial intelligence organizations or companies trying to drive the penetration of artificial intelligence, trying to improve on it, trying to feed as much data into the system as possible, and then serve the people with as much information as much as possible. But now, this is one way we can use to automate repetitive tasks. Now, as a government, releases would be something that would happen every now and then. So now, because releases is something that would happen every now and then, you need to cut short the time that you use to produce one press release. You need to ensure that the turnaround time for when a press release is being delivered from the government coffers is lower, and then there's a lot of care that goes into it. Now, if you go further and say that in less than 5 minutes that an accident has happened, you see a Facebook social media post that expresses regret, expresses sadness, and shows solidarity with the people, which is what we're seeing on the screen right now. Now, based on that incident, based on the press release, this is a social media post produced by the same AI engine. This means that in less than 1 minute, the government can produce a post, a social media post that expresses condolence, that expresses sadness, that expresses emotional connection with the people that they serve. Now, these also contribute or adds to the conversation of reducing or shortening the lead time between with producing content. Now, this is the post that's supposed to go out to the public. Now, this post has taken the approach of, oh, we are considering your safety, we are providing support for the community, we are behind you, we are together, we need to come together, expresses every single thing. Now, for this tool, this ChatGPT, all you need to do is to feed it instructions as much as detailed as possible, and then you get as much as possible information that you need from it to be produced for you, whether as a press release or as a social media post. If you want to put the post on Twitter, for example, you can ask the machine or the engine to shorten this same Facebook post into a 280 word limit post, and then you would get something of that nature. So it's important, it's essential to our government can communicate better with its citizens. Now, another example here in shortening repetitive tasks is that, especially, and I included some of these examples for those who work in corporate, that you during the meeting, notes are being taken. Interestingly, there is now even an AI tool, Firefiles, not AI, that you can use to take notes from any meeting whatsoever, provided it's an online meeting. So all I need to do is to add Firefiles to this call, and it would transcribe every single thing that we're talking about in this meeting. If there are action points, it would list those action points. Now, it will go further to say that this action point is to be carried out by this person, is to be carried out by this meeting partner, carried out by this meeting. That's how collaborative, or that's how deep AI has become in helping us be more productive as professionals. Now, this tool here, you hold a meeting, and then there are deliverables, and then you need to have a task planner. Now, this is the task planner by Office 365. Now, this Office 365 task planner, all I need to do is, I don't need to remind anyone to say, oh, your task is due. If I've included it in the planner, I've included a due date in the planner, the person automatically gets a notice when his due date is close. He gets a notice when the due date is here. So that way, the follow-ups that need to happen, for example, in board meetings, the executive secretary or something, or the secretary to the board, we need to follow up with each board member to say, oh, this is happening at this date, you are supposed to deliver on this, you're supposed to share this with us. That would not need to happen with an Office 365 planner, because at the end of the day, these people get automatic emails or automated emails that reminds them and can even sync into their calendar to let them know that something is due. And this is also an application of artificial intelligence in helping people collaborate more, in helping people work more. Now, for internal stakeholders, this is essential for the government, because the way civil service works presently in Nigeria can be better. There's very low level of due to the legislation involved in getting people penalized, etc., and the likes. So because of that, it's difficult to hold someone accountable. There's some form of bureaucracy when you're following up on issues, when there are cross-functional activities or cross-functional projects to be done. the office planner, the Office 365 planner can help shield all these things, because you don't need to follow up and then someone talking to me, a director, in this manner, even though I'm a director in my agency and the like. So this helps take out those forms of Nigerianness, quote unquote, in the system. Now, another touch point to speak on here is personalizing communications, which artificial intelligence helps us to do. Now, for whether internally or externally, the beauty of artificial intelligence here, I'm showing two examples here. One example is right now, if you want to send an email to someone, and then in the email, you write find attached, and you have not attached that document. Now, the machine has been trained to know that when there is find attached in an email, there should be an accompanying document. So when this document is not present in the email, you get a prompt before you send. Oh, it seems like you forgot to attach a file. That's a form of artificial intelligence infused with machine learning. So it's interesting that because this can help you personalize communications based on different stakeholders' needs. Now, the second screenshot here is showing auto-completion for emails. Now, if you want to send emails to internally, artificial intelligence can help you complete the email. Now, in terms of, it can suggest predictive text to you. It can suggest predictive text to you to say, oh, if I want to say thanks for a very interesting and productive meeting, it can actually show that, oh, maybe perhaps this is what you want to talk about. So there are people who perhaps they're not very good at sending emails out. In this case, that sort of thing would mean that, oh, that it can auto-complete this email for you. Now, it's important that stakeholders get communications that is tailored to their needs, that is tailored to their preferences, how they want to be communicated to. And it's important. These two key ways is that AI is helping us personalize communications with different stakeholders, is what we're looking at now. So we can personalize communication with predictive text. Now, predictive text would analyze the email that you have already written, and then look at what can follow. And this is very easy to set up. If you are using Gmail or you're using Yahoo Mail or Outlook, all you need to do is to go to your settings and then turn on personalization. This way, your emails can have predictive text. So the next set of text, the next set of sentences, you can predict it and then it can show you. Now, one critical point to mention here is also how AI can help us understand the different stakeholder needs, also analyze the data that is available for us. Now, for example, AI has become so interesting that you can type out a press release and using a tool called Grammarly.com, you can use this artificial intelligence tool to find out how that press release sounds, how that email sounds, how that memo sounds. Now, for example, you want to sound formal because you're speaking to a director, you're speaking to a senior level exec. You can find out if your tone in the email or in the memo sound formal. Now you want to sound, for example, the press release that we published earlier, we can actually test to see, does this press release sound sad? If we want to sound sad, if we want to sound concerned, does it sound regretful? Now, for example, a lot of times companies get into trouble and then you need to publish a press release or take a public stand as it is on that issue because I've gotten into trouble. Sometimes you want to take the regretful approach based on the issue. Now you can check with this artificial intelligence tool, Grammarly, to see, do we sound regretful? Do we sound confident? Do we sound assertive? Do we sound disapproving? Do we sound accusatory? Do we sound worried? Now you can check the tone of the text which you have come up with. So whether it's a text message you want to send to a colleague or the government is trying to communicate to the citizens, the government should be checking this sort of tone. So whether it's in an email, you can check the tone. And it's interesting because this tool, you don't perhaps need to use it by going to the website. You can install a plugin on your browser, if you're using a Chrome or an Opera browser, that automatically detects everything you text. It detects the tone of everything you type in your email, for example. So you can type an email and then you want to see how does the text sound? How does the text sound? Does it sound formal? Does it sound friendly? Does it sound optimistic or whatever? And this is a very, very basic application of artificial intelligence in our work. A very basic application of artificial intelligence in the way we communicate to different stakeholders. Now, if you're communicating to internal stakeholders, maybe you are the human resources manager, or the human resources department, people operations department. You perhaps want to sound formal, you want to sound friendly, you want to sound optimistic about the company goals or the company's vision or care about what you're communicating, then you can check it to see how does it sound. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that those who are receiving it at the end, who are at the end of that communication, receive it in the way that you wanted them to receive it. Now, also, AI can help us generate insights from data. So whatever data that we have, we can use artificial intelligence to generate these insights. We can use this artificial intelligence from the same data that we have previously to generate it, to analyze it. For example, on the screen, there are two images on the screen. On the left side is a quick analysis of a GUBA candidate, of a gubernatorial candidate in Lagos today. Now, this GUBA candidate over the last 7 days, as an artificial intelligence tool called Brand24 has analyzed what people have spoken about this GUBA candidate, brought out data. Now, not just bringing out the data, also on the left side has brought up the most trending hashtags which people are speaking about this candidate. Now, this, for example, is insightful for the candidate, because the candidate can know how to personalize its communication. The candidate can say to himself or herself that, oh, I have so many negative mentions. My negative mentions has grown in the last couple of weeks. So perhaps I'm becoming unpopular with the people. And then these are the topics which I am becoming unpopular with the people. So now, based on these topics, let me leverage this topic. Let me speak to this topic. Let me speak around this topic so that people can see that perhaps I am with them, perhaps I'm one of them, and the likes. So now this is one thing that AI can do, which is take the data that is available around the brand, around a candidate, around an elected official, around the government. AI can help you tell that, oh, your government is unpopular with the people. Your government is popular with the people based on what they're saying. Now, this same tool can show a graph to see how the negative sentiment has grown over the past few weeks about this same person, this same individual. So it's important that we leverage a tool like this, Brand24, it's its name. Now, you can find mentions, you can carry out full head-on sentiment analysis to see, oh, what this person is saying is negative, what this person is saying is positive. This person is giving kudos to the candidate or to the elected official, and this person isn't. A lot of people are speaking on this topic about this person, and then this is what they are saying about it. Now, AI can help us, as a matter of fact, generate this insight from the data, and then we can use it. Now, this AI can as well also help us identify the trends that are happening. Now, the tool that we're seeing on the screen is known as Google Trends. Now, Google Trends, as an artificial intelligence tool, can help us understand in the last 12 months in this country, what are the most popular topics that people are searching for via Google search. Now, what are the things that people are concerned about? Now, so for example, the government can decide that in the last 1 month, what are people been searching for in Nigeria? Now, these conversations, because they are germane, because they are important, because they are essential, this can feed into what the government would communicate. even for corporates, this can feed into what the brand can communicate during the time. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you're not in dissonance, you're not in disarray with the tone of the public. So with Google Trends, you can see what people are searching for over a period, and then leverage these to drive conversation for the brand or for the government or for the elected official. Now, this is important because at the end of the day, one more time, as an official who is trying to get into public service, or as a government who is already elected, you want to ensure that you are in tune with what the people are interested in. You want to ensure that your external stakeholders, who are the citizens, you are aligned with their interests. You know what they are interested in, and then you can use AI to generate how you can even now leverage it. Now, these different tools that we have mentioned over this conversation can be used together. For example, I can find out that I can find out what people are searching for, what they are interested in, what their search queries are, and I go to a ChatGPT to say, oh, based on this search query, create an entertaining post for the governor of Lagos. Now, what this would mean is that ChatGPT will analyze what the search queries are and then create a very relatable post on social media for the governor of Lagos State. Now, this has taken this tool, Google Trends, and connected it with ChatGPT. So it has connected two artificially intelligent tools, or AI-led or AI-driven tools, and used it to achieve the same purpose, which is to communicate to the public. Now, these days we see a lot of PR professionals becoming aides of governments, aides of governors, aides of presidents, and the likes. And in that role, you'll be entrusted with creating social media posts. A lot of times I realized that people are not exactly connecting with the people. Now, this is one key way you can use to create social media posts that put the political official, the political office holder in good light, and also connect him or her with the people, because you are taking insights from what people are searching for, you're taking insights from what people are interested in, and you're creating your content, leveraging that. And that section is how AI can help us automate tasks, from monitoring social media to creating and sending reports. Every single thing of task that would require us to be done, or that require to be done, as someone who works in corporate comms, as someone who works in PR and the likes, AI can help with it. Now, you want to monitor what has been said about the government or your brand of your organization on social media. AI can help with that, and that's one thing that the tool that we did earlier, Engagement10032023, can do. What has been said about the brand, a tool like even mentions.com also solves this. What has been said about the brand, week on week, what's the share of voice for this brand? Now, these tools can look at the social media data available, analyze it, bring it together, piece it together, and produce reports that make sense, produce reports that speak to these issues. Now, a presidential candidate, if a friend of a presidential candidate reached out to me leading to these elections and mentioned to me, this presidential candidate, want to confirm that what a lot of things that is being said about this candidate isn't affecting him in the public space, and then want to find out, I want to get a professional opinion about it. Now, all I needed to do was to open an AI powered tool to see what the sentiment analysis for this candidate is across board. Now, what that did was present a report to say that in the last 1 year, or in the last 9 months, that this candidate has been in the news, has become a subject of conversations. These are the things that have been said, and these topics that have been tied to this candidate Is it creating negative sentiment, or is it creating positive sentiment, or is it creating neutral sentiment for the candidate? So it's important that this is something that AI can do, as against before, traditionally, you perhaps need to get a TNA or an Ipsos to carry out a field research for you to find out, oh, what's the pulse of the people, what's the sentiment of the people concerning this candidate, and then this would take maybe 2 weeks or 1 week to carry out. But with AI, I can automate this task in the comfort of my home, take a look at the data. The tool has analyzed it and will piece the report for me in a way that makes sense. And then I can easily send this report. Now, there's a tool called Zapier. For those who work in corporate, Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R, this tool can help you get this sort of data, get it, put it into a report, and then share with necessary stakeholders. Now, if you work in corporate, you can just set up this tool, set up the workflow. So every week, these stakeholders get this kind of report. Every week, this set of stakeholders get this report. Now, this kind of report that the CFO will be getting, we don't from the kind of report that the CEO would be getting, because the CEOs and the CFOs' interests are totally different now. The CEO is perhaps concerned, how much are you spending on cost per acquisition? The CFO, the CEO perhaps will be concerned about, oh, how much revenue are we generating week on week or month on month? So what they're, in terms of business metrics, what they're concerned with it are totally two different things. So now, this, in the same light, you can create this sort of thing that what the elected official will be getting is different, as against what his commissioners will be getting is different, because at the end of the day, what matters to them are two different things. Now, another key thing to mention is how we can use AI to target comms based on personal preferences. Now, this is one key way that AI and humans intersect. Now, for this, what you're looking at on the screen right now is the context of a discussion around a political candidate who is running for Lagos State Governor. Now, the context of the conversations now is around this. Now, for the handlers of the candidate, they can look at the context of the conversations that people are having around this person to say, oh, based on these things that are being said, oh, for example, entrepreneurship is in green and is large. Perhaps this means that we can leverage on entrepreneurship. Infrastructure is another campaign theme. Healthcare, education, improved choices, viral video, etc. Transportation. Now, the team can look at these, look at the context of the discussions, and say to each other that these should be where our focus, when the governor goes to speak, or the governorship candidate goes to speak in any public forum, these should be the things it should be hammering on, because the discussions over the past 3 months about this person has been centered around this. And if the discussion has been centered around this and it's been positive, it means that if he needs to double down on talking about or speaking to these topics. Now, this is also one thing that artificial intelligence can do for us, as against having to commission an Ipsos or a TNS to understand this in weeks, which will not happen in weeks. The tool, Engagement10032023, in this case, can analyze the things that has been said about a person for the past 3 months, or the government for the past 6 months, and bring it into context to say, everything that has been said around this government in the last 6 months, these are the key topics on it. These are the key things on it. Now, to put this into context, the words in red are the negative sentiments. The words in green are the positive sentiments. Now, the words in black, the words in gray or black are neutral sentiments. So now, this can speak to a lot of things, to the direction in which even the campaign itself goes as a campaign. So the point here is that continually, public office holders should be reviewing the context of conversations around them, so they can know how to act and know which steps to take And AI solves this problem in 1 or 2 clicks. Now, I put up a short example as well of how AI is also being used in ChatGPT, where this scenario is a brand that his stock has just tanked in the market. And they want to inform the management team on Slack. Now, all you need to do is to put the prompt on ChatGPT, and then it creates a short message for you. Now, this short message, because you are communicating to other leaders of the business, you're communicating to the leadership, the tone in which it speaks, the tenses it uses, the words are carefully selected to focus on that stakeholder group. So now we can use AI to personalize our communications to the different stakeholder groups that exist. And that is the juice. That's one of the juices, or that is one of the benefits that AI offers us as a people or as professionals in this space. Now, to conclude on this conversation, whether we work in government or we work in corporate, or we're aspiring to be in government, one thing is critical. The level at which things are being done right now could be upped, should be upped, from communicating to citizens, to communicating to even internal stakeholders of the public service themselves, which is employees of the government critically, contractors of the government critically, and the likes, to now, even if you work in corporate, from communicating to the internal and external stakeholders, the level of communications needs to be increased, needs to go up, because the truth is that the way at which it is being done right now can be better, way better. Now, I started an example of how the CBN memo leaked, and it caused chaos across the country, because at that time, that memo was even being communicated with the bank MDs. They were supposed to be the ones to communicate to the public via the respective banks, but it leaked to the public. So now the point here is that AI can help prevent those sort of scenarios, because the Apex Bank itself could have prepared a release that would have gone to the public, could have prepared a release that would have gone to the bank MDs that speaks in their tone, that speaks in their own language that they understand, and so on and so forth. So it's important for us to know that AI can help us improve our comms to different stakeholders in a variety of ways. Now, starting from analyzing interactions of what is being said about the elected official or the aspiring official, to automating everyday tasks that needs to be done. Now, if we understand our stakeholders better and we respond to their needs, now if the government understands the citizens better, using this AI, leveraging these AI tools, and is responsive to the needs of the citizens, definitely, whether it's in government or in corporate, there can be an improvement in the way and manner which both groups are communicating to each other, and then stronger relationships can be formed in this light. Now, I end with this story of the man who has become an enigma in the Nigerian political space, which is Peter Obi. I'm sure that perhaps everyone on this call knows Peter Obi, and this story is very significant because this guy analyzed the conversation in the country, analyzed what is going on in the country. Now, leveraged what the citizens are yearning for, what people are speaking to, as a conversation campaign tool. And everywhere he spoke, he hammered on these communication topics. He hammered on these themes. He made it resounding. He made it so resounding that people now, when they hear words like from consumption to production, they associate it with him as strongly as possible. So the point here is that AI can help us do these things at our fingertips without having to lift a finger and without having to do so many things, because that is what those tools are designed for. From Zapier to Grammarly to ChatGPT to Brand24 and the likes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Israel, for this interesting presentation. Dear colleagues, I think this is the time we would open the house for comments, and maybe we can use the next 20, 25 minutes to do that. Registrar, are you there?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so help run the interactive session, please. Israel, thank you. We'll take questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Maybe let me start on a lighter note. My first question would have been to ask you whether you are a Nigerian or an Israeli, but you answered that at the beginning of your presentation. So dear colleagues, do we have questions for Mr. Ogunsheye, if I'm right? Yes, Mr. Israel Ogunsheye.
That's correct.
We've listened to the insightful presentation. So let's keep our questions, comments coming in, please. Okay, I see Felix. Please unmute yourself. Felix, unmute yourself and ask your questions or make your comments. You can raise your virtual hands, and once you've been recognized, please lower your hand. Felix, you are recognized. Felix, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now.
I was saying that I want to thank him very much for the effective presentation. I just wanted him to throw more light on those. Can he mention those AI tools that he wants us to use? I remember he talked about ChatGPT, he talks about Zapier. There are other ones, I think about 4 of them. Can you mention them again, please? Thank you. Just to name them.
Okay, thank you. There is another comment in the chat box that says you should please list them in the chat box. So do you want him to mention or you want him to list?
Okay, let him put them in the chat box better. The chat box is better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Rashid Calabar, please, like I said, okay, you were not here when we started. Please log in with your name. You have the floor. Please introduce yourself and then log in, and then ask your question. Please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, my name is Rashid Oloriwaju from Calabar chapter. Mine is just an observation because I joined a bit late because of some technical issues. We just want to plead if we can have a copy of the presentation after the whole exercise so that we can digest it.
Definitely you will have it.
All right, thank you.
Please lower your hands. Any other hands up? Okay, we can see your visual. We can see you visually. Please go ahead and make your comment.
Professor Colin?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Please, is there any way we can access more information on this AI application free of charge?
Absolutely, yes, that's correct. I would send a link to a tool that is the dictionary or the Google search of AI tools. So that link houses every AI tool that has been created across the globe. So all you need to do is open the website, find the category of tools that you have, AI tools that you can leverage to drive anything you want to do. I'll send that also in the comment section.
Thank you. Someone is asking whether we are not heading to a time when AI will totally replace human intelligence.
That's an interesting comment because I even just replied it. We would get there. We would get to that point. However, I think that we always need humans to manage the product of artificial intelligence or the applications of artificial intelligence. So if the place of humans, human intelligence, the place of humans may be displaced. If you have a robot, you need a human to manage the robot. You need it to turn it off. You need it to tell it, these are the tools, these are the activities, these are the tasks you should carry out. So at the end of the day, the place of humans cannot exactly be thrown out of the box, maybe in the next 50, 100 years. But every research is going into the applications of artificial intelligence, deeply different ones, from even sexual applications to emotional applications. People are developing computers that can feel emotions. People are even trying to transpose human consciousness into computers. So this is developing, and then it's definitely going to show that, or it's definitely showing us that this is the focus of the world at this instance, and it will take the world at least 5-10 years to shift focus from artificial intelligence, because the applications of it are deeper than many of us would think.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments, please? I don't think there's any other comment in the chat box. I'm trying to. Okay. Ms. Adaramola, please, you have the floor.
Okay, Adaramola. Good morning. I want to really appreciate Mr. Ogunleye. He has done justice to the topic. My question is this. This thing looks so interesting that everybody wants to key into it. But as it is, if he has promised to send a link or how we can get AI properly on the Google. But would there be any opportunity for training? For instance, I'm interested in this area of taking minutes, predictive tests, and some other things. I don't know. Can there be any further training on it, rather than just make functions and how it operates?
Over to you,
Hello.
Mr. Israel.
Sure, absolutely. That's a thing. I'm sure the organization can put something together, and then we will review how to each of the different use cases. We'll review how we can do a walkthrough as to moving from year to year. This is how you use this exactly. And we carry out a workshop in that regard. So I'm sure that the organization can look to facilitating something like that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further comments? He has listed some of the things he mentioned in the chat box. Please go there. There is
Yes, please.
Okay, you have the floor, please.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to find out that there obviously would be some disadvantages to this, and whatever has advantages we want to forestall or even deal with the disadvantages of AI. For example, I was watching on a news network yesterday how AI can now exactly mimic someone's voice and way of talking. And we all know that this can be used to cause a lot of havoc for someone. So how do we deal with this kind of situation?
You've asked a very interesting part of the conversation, which because people have been asking, oh, for example, when ChatGPT broke out first, there were people who used it to write a whole thesis, write their whole dissertation, and submitted it in universities across the globe, and it passed. So as a matter of fact, there was a report that an AI tool has passed the bar exam and even the medical exam in some countries. So there are extreme use cases for these things. There are even reports of people who have said that, oh, there are tools where you can impute someone's picture and then you get a naked version of their face, of their self as an output. So while these use cases exist, there are organizations that are working hard to fight against these sort of use cases, these sort of harmful use cases of artificial intelligence. For example, I think it was even a teenager who created an AI tool checker for papers. So while schools are plagiarism checkers, this teenager has developed a checker to see if this paper has been produced by an AI tool. So continually, while these harmful incidences would occur as a means of the development of the space, it's important to also note or mention that there are also counter organizations, counter initiatives and measures that have been created to combat this sort of incident. So I think at some point, to balance out, right now is skewed towards the advantage is those who are using these tools for this sort of extreme use cases have the advantage right now. But I can see that definitely the advantages will dwindle or would wane over time. So the disadvantages are things that can be contained as well, just like the advantages are limitless.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, clarifications before we move on to the next topic? Okay, on this note, we want to thank Mr. Israel Ogunsheye for sharing the insightful presentation. And letting us drink from his fountain of knowledge. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Israel Ogunsheye. Thank you, Registrar, for helping us to coordinate the interactive session. We would want to allow us 2 minutes or 3. You need to stand up from your seat, go get water, go get coffee, just do something so that blood will flow. So we'll take 3 minutes health break, please, dear colleagues. And then we'll come back for the second module on public sector communication. Thank you so much.
Can get artificial ice cream?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is no artificial intelligence that will make substitute for you standing up to allow blood flow. So let's please stand up. Let's just take 3 minutes. You need to also check out what is happening in your surrounding. It's always good to be security conscious these days. Just look out through your window and see what is happening. When you come back, we'll report back. So it's 11:40. We'll return at 11:45. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, Prof. Or good morning, Prof, good morning. Prof.
Okay, well, welcome back. It's our 5 minutes is gone. Can we please return to our seats? Let's kindly return to our seats. Okay, let me ask Adetola, what did you see around your surrounding? What is happening today around your current location?
Nothing much, nothing much. Just how people moving up and down. That's it.
Where's the location today?
I'm in Lagos.
In Lagos.
Yes, please.
Okay. So thank God the election has been shifted. Otherwise, we'd have seen more activity, maybe.
Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Felix Ejuweke, help share with us what you saw in your surrounding. Felix. Felix Ejuweke. Okay, can we have OC Osinachi instead? OC Osinachi, can you share with us what you saw around your current location when you went on break?
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, OC.
Oh, yeah, I'm in FCT, I'm in Abuja.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it's okay. There's nothing really because I'm actually in my office, you know, so everywhere is calm.
You didn't see Mahmoud on the street?
No, I didn't see Mahmoud. Mahmoud is in his office trying to sort himself out.
He's formatting the beavers. That's
no, he's
great.
that's what I'm saying, sorting himself out. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Well done, sir.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you, sir.
Let's move to Khadija Mungonu. Khadija, what's happening there?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, ma.
It's calm.
Okay.
Like
where
everybody
are
has
you?
mentioned, I'm here in the FCT also.
Okay.
So physically, everything is calm. Online, I'm sure we all know what is going on. Everybody is glued to the next news on the recent elections.
I am not.
I'm sure you're monitoring it somehow.
Well, that's great. Rashid, are you in Calabar? Rashid Calabar. Thank you, Khadija. Rashid Calabar. Omoba Kenneth. Can we share your experience? Omoba Kenneth. Okay, how about Eloho? Eloho.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm actually in Abuja as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's calm here, like my colleagues have said. And then from my window, I can see the long fuel queues.
Wow.
We still have that persisting in Abuja this time. And then, of course, everybody's talking about the elections and how they can't get cash to buy things and how the network is not so reliable. But in all, I think there's this optimism that things will get better. So that's Abuja right now.
Okay, Babatunji, that should be the last one. What is the situation where you are with fuel? Babatunji Wusu. Babatunji. Okay, let's go to Nuru Yusuf for the last experience we'll take in this segment. Nuru Yusuf.
Yes, good morning all. Good morning, Prof. Well, actually, as regards the issue of fuel here, is so terrible. There is a long queue in the filling stations. And one bad thing I realized is that the filling stations are no longer using the other means of transacting the business, POS and others. They want cash. So they always insist on getting cash from the customer. So this is a very difficult situation for people.
Yeah.
So it has not been easy at all.
So where are you?
Well, currently I'm at home because I don't want to be disturbed. I really want to pay attention to the MCPD course.
Okay.
That is why I took a day leave to stay at home and be very attentive.
That is good practice.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
good practice, yes.
Yes.
I drove my car to the office. It's in red, so I wonder where I will get fuel. I entered this morning. There was a long queue for, if you are using POS, you go and queue up in the filling station, and they deduct the money before you go to the pump. And so I couldn't wait because I needed to get here in good time to join this class.
Sorry.
So I need everybody's prayers that my car will not stop on the way before I get back to the filling station.
By the grace of God. Thank you, Prof.
So thank you so much, Nura. Thank you, everybody. We, of course, have now confirmed that each of us at least looked out through the window. And that is commendable. And we would now just run through. There are so many slides, but I will just be skipping. I wasn't sure whether we should assume that we already have the basis in terms of public service, the way it works, and the way it comes. Olubukona, can you please put off your microphone?
Okay, I will. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. So, to be on the safer side, I thought we should have a little of everything. So we'll start with this module I call Understanding Public Sector Communication. And we'll take a few slides from here and move on to best practices, and then continue with the last set of slides that will link the discussion on AI as well as public sector communication. I realized that about 60% of members of the class are from the public sector. And I want to believe that part of it is because of the title of the module. And so we would want to invite everybody to think public sector for now, because whether in the private or public sector, you must engage in some communication with the public sector institutions, as well as you might have some messages targeted at various stakeholders. And these are some of the areas we want to quickly look at. So when you think of public sector, just remember the old story about the elephant. And that even defines communication even better, because when you have 3-4 people that are exposed to the same communication situation, and you ask them to decide whether communication has taken place or not, they are most likely going to give you different perspectives to the same experience they've had. So I just want us to remember the big elephant that the blind men were asked to describe. Of course, each described communication or the elephant from the perspective of where he touched. And those that touched the trunk felt that elephant is a long animal like a snake. Those that touched the ears thought that the elephant was wide like the ocean. And of course, those that touched the body felt that the elephant was very huge. And each of these descriptions could be said to be right, because the elephant has all these attributes. But the elephant is all that and more. And so communication is often seen as a simple activity. But the truth is that communication is a very complex activity. And so when you are trying to engage different people, a community that is made up of people that have different interests, different expectations, you most likely end up with different results. And so the best way to do that is for you to be systematic, is for you to do segmentation, so you can ensure that you're giving to each person what will resonate with that person, and as well as connect them to the message. Now, when you come to communication generally, you realize that when you, in organizations where adequate attention is paid to communication skills, there is 85% possibility of success, because communication facilitates the internal working of that organization and also links the organization with its external stakeholders. But when you ask the employees in an organization, what do they spend most time doing on a good day? You realize that opinions differ. Let me ask you to look from this list. Which of them do you think employees spend more time in a day doing? Reading, talking, listening, or writing? You may put your answers in the chat box. Let's take 1 minute to put our answers. Just type which of the 4 you think employees spend more time doing in a day on the chat box, please. Talking, okay. Olushe, you should choose one. You go for listening or talking. Choose one. Khadija says talking. Felix says writing. Yes, keep it coming. Okay, Oluwaseun has decided to go for writing. Chikube, it says talking. Rashid says talking. Olubuko Nola, yours, you are rigging the election. You can't do 2 things. Choose one. So your vote is invalid. Eloho, your vote is invalid. You can't be writing and chatting. There are 2 different things. Choose one out of the 4. Okay, talking. Great. Now let's see what research has shown us. From over 23 different researches conducted in different cultures and different organizations, the answer overwhelmingly is that 45% of our time is spent listening. It couldn't have been talking, because if you're talking, everybody is talking in the organization, it then means that it will be a very noisy place. And so we exchange the talking with listening, but we listen more on the average. Then of course, 30% of our time is spent on talking, and only 60% is spent on reading, while 90% is spent on writing. For every research, there could be an exception. So try to ask yourself and try to look at your life, your work life closely when you return to work and see whether your reality confirms this ratio or your reality differs from this. But chances are very high that majority of us will agree that we spend more time listening than talking. Even if you take this class, for instance, we spent maybe up to 70% of our time listening, if not more, than talking. And I think that that gives you a rough idea what happens daily in your work life. And then this also is just quickly to remind us that sometimes a message that is sent at the point of initiation may not be understood the same way. And if you look at the ratio, you say this message, 100% of it from the CEO, as it is going down, it is reducing in percentage. And that could happen also if the message is coming from the bottom. This is because human beings are involved. This is because of what we call individual differences perspective in communication. And so the same way that you touch the blind man that touched the elephant had different understanding, the same message, people might have different interpretations, again, because there are different intervening factors when employees deal with messages in an organization. And of course, grapevine is one that we also sometimes ignore. Grapevine is that one that we say, them say, them say. You hear the information, but it's not correct. Before we got the official information from INEC about shifting the election, we started hearing from different online sources that INEC would likely shift the election to 18th. You know, and grapevine, you can see how it works in terms of networking. The messages move faster, and there is a lot more networking, particularly with the grapevine, because everybody has a close friend. Your close friend has a close friend, just as you have a close friend. And their close friend has a close friend. So anything that you don't want to be said elsewhere, you keep it to yourself. Once you have shared it with one person who is your closest friend, remember that you might not necessarily be that person's closest friend. And that person will likely share with his close friend. And before you know it, it goes fast. And that's why we say grapevine is a very fast network. Excuse me. Now, when you're talking about public sector communication, there are three dynamics that come into play. The first one is that there is a trust gap, not just in Nigeria, between government and the governed, between the people and the public officials. There is a trust gap. And you see that we are having so many people contesting the election results as presented by INEC. Part of it is because they have lost confidence. It's possible that INEC had genuine reasons and genuine challenge why they couldn't upload the results immediately. But because we're used to suspecting government institutions, the default position is that we would think that it was deliberate, that INEC switch off its server and things like that. This is not only peculiar to us. Researchers have shown that globally, there is a trust deficit between government and the people. And so that affects the nature of communication, especially when you're trying to get citizens to understand and support a particular government initiative. Now, it's also necessary for us to know that we are dealing with different challenges, even on the part of governments and leaders. There are social issues. In Nigeria today, we're talking about the Naira crunch. That in itself is capable of affecting the behavior of the public officers. It's also capable of affecting the perception of messages they receive, just as the same way that it affects the citizens. So those social, economic, and political challenges also have impact on the nature of our communication. between the different stakeholders in public sector communication. So for government to be effective, we must embrace strategic communication if our public sector communication must deliver the result that we desire. But one of the major challenges is that there is what we call elite capture. You know, in the sense that we can improve the trust situation when there is genuine conversation between the people and those that are running the public information organs. But oftentimes, the attempt to access the opinion of the people is hijacked, you know, rather than deploy tools that will assist in giving you the exact situation with respect to the voice of the customer, or what we call the voice of the people. Oftentimes, some public officials arrogate themselves the privilege to decide what they think the people should be thinking about, or what they think will be the people's opinion. But what is important is for us to note that globally, there has been enough results to show that there is a correlation between communication and good governance. Because for you to run a system effectively, you must have feedback. And government often has services it delivers to the people. Government needs to know at what point to deliver the service, indeed, what service to deliver and how to deliver the service so that it will be well received by the people. That in itself is the first challenge. The next challenge is when government institutions communicate their messages and services, they also need to know from the people whether or not it is working or it is not working. And so communication actually makes good governance possible. The same way that communication is what makes democracy, or whatever you call it, in terms of system of government to work. Because governance is about people, is about policies, is also about the engagement between these two. And of course, when you're talking about processes, you need communication for people to appreciate the processes. And when you now bring in technology, as we have started our discussion this morning, that in itself brings another dynamics that can affect the way communication is perceived and how effective communication will be. Now, in terms of the functions of public sector communication, there are basically three. Either it is targeted to inform, or it is targeted to persuade the citizenry to accept certain government policies or reforms, or it is targeted to engage the citizen to learn what they are thinking, to understand their feelings, to also understand their fears, as with a view to evolving new policies that can address those fears. So it is to inform, to persuade, and to engage the citizens. Now, one of the lessons we got from where we started, where we said we spend more time listening than talking, is that most times we forget that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And that is because he knows that we need to listen more. But the challenge with communication most times is that we do not consciously train ourselves to listen. And so it brings to mind the issue of active versus passive listening. Now, one of the reasons why listening is difficult is that you must suppress your ego long enough for you to allow the other person to articulate what he wants to say. When you believe that you know it all, it becomes difficult for you to effectively listen to whatever messages that you are supposed to be receiving, either from the environment or from a public institution. So I have this graph there that tells you the difference between passive and active listening. On the left-hand side, it articulates some of the factors that make it difficult for you to have active listening. You know, there could be deep-rooted beliefs. You can see that this election is characterized by a lot of playing up of primordial sentiments of religion, of ethnicity, and what have you. This serves as screen towards understanding effectively any message that is coming from either an individual or an institution. You know, now in terms of active listening, we are looking at people who are carefully trying to receive the message, understand the message, ask questions, and also trying to understand how the person sending the message feels, with a view to responding based on their understanding of what they think the person is saying. So we need more of active listening than passive listening. And public institutions must equally learn that. It is not just human beings that need more of active listening. Most times, the average Nigerian will tell you that government doesn't listen, because we see government and government institutions doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Now, I have some suggestions here how we can improve government's ability to listen. The first thing is for you to access what your stakeholders are thinking. You must go out to them. You must consciously seek their feedback. If you sit in your comfortable zone, without an outreach, you cannot know what they feel. And that means that you would also know where you have succeeded communication-wise, the same way that you will not know what you need to replicate to ensure that you are effective generally. Now, you must also deliberately, either as government institution or government spokesperson, you must have various tools that you can use to gain insight from the people. This is what in marketing we call voice of the customer. There are different ways you can elicit responses. There are different ways you can listen to what is happening in the world of the citizens or in the world of the stakeholders. So you must deliberately choose to listen, and you must design tools or deploy tools that you will use in gathering the information. And the other thing is that when the citizens relate with public institutions, they expect that you will listen to them and respond to the messages they have also shared with you. And most times, government spokespersons and government institutions do not know that response does not necessarily have to be a yes. What is important is that the people want to know that you understand what they want. And even if it is a no, you should provide them a response that will make them know that you understand what they want, but there is a reason why you cannot grant that. And provide them an alternative with respect to seeking or getting the relief that their request was seeking to get. Now, I have also itemized some 6 or 7 points that will guide public institutions in terms of ensuring that they listen better. The first one is the same word, to listen. And I'm saying that with social media now, we have various avenues we can actually listen on a daily basis. And so it's important that as policymakers, as implementers of policies, we need to listen more so that we will have better policies, so that we will not have policies that will not be meeting the needs of the day. Then it's also important that in the provisioning of our services as public institutions, we should know where our audiences are. And majority of the audiences today, they are on the mobile phone. Majority of the businesses today, they are on the mobile phone. They are using internet. And so it's important for you to incorporate mobile telephony in the planning of your messages, in the choice of your channels of communication. And this brings us to the issues of also leveraging influencers to ensure that you have third-party endorsement of the policies or the ideas, that you also have more like testimonies, others talking about that particular message that you want to send out, than the government or public institution itself addressing the issues or the messages that they have for the people. It works better when a neutral person shares the same message, because that neutral person is most likely to be trusted by the citizens because they feel that that neutral person has no stake. And so they are most likely to listen to him. And so you must find ways to also use influencers to ensure that your messages resonate in the people. And I think that one of the major challenges, because just a week ago, communication experts in Nigeria converged on a Zoom room where we did an analysis of what went wrong with the 2023 presidential election. And one of it is that we felt that communication was not effectively deployed. Particularly, INEC did not effectively engage the people. And so there are lots of gaps that could have been avoided. Now, you must also, at all times in the planning of your communication, be citizen-centric. Every citizen has an opinion on what he expects from government, how he wants government to act. He has also an interest. So public institutions should seek deliberately to know what the citizens are thinking about, to know what the citizens expect of it. And this is what I mean by being citizen-centric. Because when your policies are informed by what you have gotten from the citizens, the chances are high that more people will benefit from your policies and society will be better off. Now, because there are too many avenues of distractions and noise, you must prioritize your messaging. You must prioritize your efforts in communicating either your reforms or your policies. This is because attention is very scarce, because there are too many things in the environment, whether it is the social environment, whether it is the political environment, whether it is the economic environment, or even religious environment, to distract you. So you must customize your information to suit people. And this is again where stakeholder segmentation is important, so that people receive messages that are useful to them. The other point is you should know, like I talked about, having a third party speak for your policy, be more effective. You should also know that in public communication, what we want is to move the target publics from just being consumers of your communication to becoming ambassadors of your communication. The same way that companies would want to move their customers from just customers to becoming ambassadors. So one of the ways you can build that kind of coalition is to also engage as public institution with NGOs, because the NGOs sometimes are the bridge between government and the people, because they are closer to the people, because NGOs work in smaller groups, in communities. And so the impact is higher. And so when government engages NGOs and partners NGOs, sometimes you are most likely to get your the expected impact. Whether they are messages meant for local communities or messages meant for specialized audiences, there must be some small professional groups or non-governmental institutions, organizations that are working in those areas. Now, it's also important to decide which is the best way to reach your target audience in terms of communicating for a public institution and for government. Now, one way to know is what kind of messages should I be looking forward to using the mass media? And I'm suggesting here that when you have messages that you need to reach large populations, what messages do I need? What kind of platform should I use, or strategy or communication approach should I use to reach specific groups of people? Social marketing is one possible option. And then when you actually want to activate buy-in of the citizenry in terms of activate their participation in a particular government policy or project, social mobilization is important. The same way that if you're looking at getting third parties to support the processes of implementation of policies or programs of public institution, media advocacy becomes one option. So what we are saying is that in ensuring that you effectively engage the publics to ensure that your public communication is effective, there are these 8 guidelines on this slide. And I'll just explain them so I can move on to the concluding part of our slide. One of the problems you find with public sector communication is that you find public officers in the same government speaking different things. Just as you found the president has a different position, and you have the governor in Kaduna State also giving his own position on the NIPR policy. Meanwhile, it is the same party they belong to, and they are also sharing the same ideology, if there is any ideology at all, underpinning any of our parties. Sometimes on the same issue, like this election, you might realize that even security forces, the police might have a different position, DSS might have a different position, Army might have a different position and all that. That ought not to be if there is effective synergy. So in government or public sector communication, you must ensure that you have one government, one voice. It doesn't matter that the voice might come from different sources, but it should be consistent to the same message on the same topic. That is very important, but it's equally very difficult to achieve. Now we have talked about having your communication to be citizen-centric. That is very important. And of course, we also need to understand that in-house, you must have dynamic communication teams that will continuously either conduct research or test messages before they are deployed and work on different segments of your communication. The other point we have discussed already is that in your planning of public communication, you should start with an understanding that the world has moved digital. And that means that if you are generating messages, they should be such that can fit into different digital platforms. And it also means that transparency is something you cannot run away from. because you can no longer protect your information fully. Before you know it, it could get out there. So the best option here is to do the right thing at all times, so that even when information that you don't want to get out gets out, it doesn't do you so much damage. And then you need to also focus your engagement, public communication on dialogue and engagement. That is very important. You know, dialogue tells you about two-way communication where you are not just the person talking, but you're listening and receiving feedback from the different audiences. And then engagement is talking about recognizing that power has left you by virtue of the social media. It's no longer you being in control of the conversation, but it's about the people being in control of conversation now. And so you must listen more and see how you can take advantage of the different places that the audiences are congregating, either online or real time. And then storytelling is very important in public sector communication. You must know how to tell stories. You must know how to use the techniques of storytelling to ensure that people can connect with the messages you are sending out. And then it's not just enough to plan your messages and push them out. It's a long time that we have already discredited the hypodermic needle theory, or the bullet theory as it were, that once the message goes out, particularly to the news media, it will achieve its purpose. No, you must pay attention to ensure that your message is not just sent, but is it really delivered? And then you must continuously evaluate, monitor and evaluate to know whether you have gotten the results that you want. And so in your planning of communication, you have an eye on your result. And that's what we mean by it should be result-based. So that summarizes most of what we have said. By way of conclusion, I'm entering the last few slides now, which is now going to connect the initial discussion and this discussion on public sector communication. And in this case, we are talking specifically on stakeholder engagement. Now, I need to take us back to our traditional stakeholder framework, where you have two poles. This on the left-hand side is the influence, and on the right-hand side, going towards the right, is the expectations. Now, what is important here is that you cannot treat your audiences the same way. You must understand their strength. You must understand their limitations. You must also understand their communication preferences. There are those that you keep satisfied. There are those you have to manage closely. There are those you have to monitor, and there are those you have to inform. And this is the first point. If you must succeed in public sector communication, you must segment your audiences. And so let me pause at this point to invite some discussions. And I think that we are in the election season. So let's look at INEC with respect to, if you agree with the communication experts that INEC did not use communication effectively. Let us look at the various stakeholders of INEC, assuming they have genuine problem with uploading the result. What are the different stakeholders that come to mind? Let me have some hands, and we'll take 3-4 people to tell us. Try to see if we can segment the audiences of INEC. They want to inform us that there's a challenge with the beavers, they can't upload. And they want to ensure that they don't give room to mischief makers so that they don't begin to misrepresent the situation. What are the different stakeholders? How will you segment them? Let me ask you to come up. You can put up your hand. We recognize you speak. Okay, Babatunji, let's have you try to segment INEC stakeholders.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes, sir.
I think for me, the stakeholders in INEC. The first one, which I want to categorize, I want to use the political gladiators one.
When you say gladiators, who are these ones? Is it the parties or the candidates?
The
Let's
parties.
look at it. Okay, the parties. Okay.
That's one.
That's one.
The active part of it also are the candidates from each parties.
Okay, the candidates. But the party is the candidate now by our rule.
Okay,
you know,
so
it's the party that presents the candidates. So where we have noted the candidates, yes. And there were 18 candidates, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have
then we
20 more seconds.
We have the masses there too.
Who are the masses now? I thought many years ago, Franco Lise went on the street to find the masses. I'm not sure he found the masses. Who are the masses now?
They are in Lagos State here.
They're in Lagos State. Is it the area boys?
No, Prof. I've not said that too.
Okay. So who are the masses?
But we have.
I think that is an amorphous. In terms of segmentation, you want to be as specific as possible.
Okay. So we have the voters. Let's say the.
Okay, the registered voters.
Yes, sir.
Great. Let's allow somebody to add to the stakeholders. Thank you so much, Babatunji. And I hope you voted.
Prof, I did. I'm an active person.
Oh, great. Unfortunately, I didn't vote. I was out of the country.
Okay. We know what to do to you. Don't.
And I also know who to hold responsible if the person they said you voted for doesn't deliver. I will be coming to you, Babatunji. Yes, Chikwebe. Yes, let's have you contribute to the segmentation of INEC stakeholders.
Okay, Prof. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
you can hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the election observers are also part of the stakeholders.
Okay, election observers.
No,
yes.
Observers, yes.
Yes, I agree with you. What else?
Of course, we have maybe even the security agencies should be informed as well, because we know the kind of tension that is often generated by such issues like not uploading the results.
Yes.
They should be duly informed.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Chukwebe. Let's have last person to contribute to the stakeholders. Last person. We have listened to Babatunji, we have listened to Chukwebe. Who wants to contribute?
Prof,
we can.
Prof,
yes, yes. Go ahead.
I think
Adara Mola, right?
Yes, that's all right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think the monitoring agencies like the EU, the observers, these are the people, the NGOs, the civil society.
Yes, we have that.
And they are key stakeholders.
We can just say NGOs, yes. Thank you, Adaramola. Mohammed, you'll be the last person on this issue. Add to the INEC stakeholders. Mohammed, there is somebody with Samsung. I'm not calling you because that is not your name. So change your device so we can call you. And we can also have others put their suggestion of INEC stakeholders in the chat box. Okay, let's say we are forgetting the telecommunications companies. They will use their network to upload. You have also forgotten logistic companies, those that will transport the materials. You have forgotten the vendors, those who print the ballot papers and those who also provide canopies and all that. So there are so many of them. Now the question is, when you put these stakeholders, you bring them down to the stakeholders engagement framework, or what you call the stakeholder segmentation matrix. Where do you put each of these stakeholders? First, for those you need to monitor, we are talking of people in this category, they have low influence and they have low expectation. You can see that's why it's at the bottom here. And we're saying that this kind of people, you should engage them with general automated digital communication. Please leave your microphones off, please. Okay, so we're now trying to pick from these stakeholders that we listed, which one would we put under low influence and low expectation that you just need to monitor from the list. You can type it because you won't be able to, we would like to move fast. The media, low influence, low expectation. Okay, let's have more. Are you sure the media is actually low influence and low expectation? Okay, thank you, Mohammed. You have reversed your decision. Maybe we want to put the voters here. Will voters go in here? Registered voters? Okay, you want the media added as a stakeholder. We are now asking which of the stakeholders of INEC will fall under low influence, low expectation. Which category? Do you agree that the voters might come in here? I want to see your responses in the chat box, please. Because of the noise, the microphones are deactivated for now. Okay, I need you to take your paper and the different stakeholders were listed. We said, listen, political parties, the candidates, the voters, that's registered voters, election observers, security, vendors, logistic companies, telecommunications companies, the media, and NGO. I want you to try and categorize them into these four. We have the low influence, low expectation stakeholders. We have the low influence, high expectation stakeholders. We have the high influence, low expectation stakeholders that you must keep satisfied. And you have the high influence and high expectation stakeholders. See if you can categorize these different stakeholders under these four categories. And I will open the microphone so we can take 3 people to share their opinion, and then we'll agree or disagree with them. Okay, if you have done your categorization, just example, where do you put the voter, for instance? Where do you put the telecommunications company? Where do you put the political parties? Where do you put the election observers? Where do you put the security? In terms of these 4 groups: low influence, low expectation; low influence, high expectation; high influence, low expectation; high influence, high expectation. Let's come to the house now. If you are ready to contribute, let me see your hand. We'll take 3 people, and then we'll take 2 people to agree or disagree with those 3. For instance, where will you put the telecommunications industries? The telecommunications company, MTN, Globalcom, Airtel, 9Mobile, and the rest. And even service, internet service providers. Where will you put them out of these 4 categories on the right-hand side of your screen? Anybody, please? I've simplified it by asking one question. Where will you put the telecommunications industries and where will you put the political parties in these 4 categories? So just let's respond based on these 2. Tell me where you will put the telecommunication companies and internet service providers, and tell me where you put the political parties within this stakeholder engagement framework. Anybody? It appears I am on my own, huh? Okay.
Where would you, Prof? Where would you,
okay.
Prof?
I can see Felix is saying telecommunications have high influence but low expectation. Eloho says, what has low influence, high expectation? Okay, telecommunications. So you are disagreeing with Felix. Okay, let's have more. You can actually take microphone and share your opinion. Telecommunications, low influence, low expectation. Political parties, high influence, high expectation. Internet service provider, security. Okay, let me have one of you take the microphone and argue your case. Feel free to release your microphone and speak.
All right. Good afternoon, Prof.
Afternoon, sir.
I'm Felix from River State.
Yes, sir.
The telecom industries, telecom service providers, the expectations actually is not much, it's not high, because whoever wins, it's none of their business. But their influence is actually very high, because they could manipulate the system by ensuring that the network does not work. So they have very key role to play to ensuring that the process delivers as expected. So their influence is quite high, but their interest and expectation of the result of the system is not as high, it's not high.
Okay, so what if that's where they are, what we're saying is that INEC needs to keep them satisfied. That means they are in this,
yes,
in this category. And that means the
but
nature of communication should be personalized digital strategy.
Yes,
you should have direct and indirect communication, and you should engage them as often as 1, 2, 3, 4 times within the season. Okay, let me have another opinion. Do you agree with Felix or do you think otherwise? Anybody? Release your microphone and speak. Thank you, Felix, for sharing your perspective. Anybody? We're asking, where do you put the telecommunications companies? Okay, yeah, yes, go ahead.
So I think their influence is high, because if their networks are down, then the beavers will not work. So
Yes.
ultimately, no one will be able to vote, and then there will be no election, so to speak.
Okay. So where do you put them? They should be kept satisfied?
High,
Or they
yeah, kept satisfied, high influence, high expectation.
Okay. All right. So the last question, where do you put the voters? I mean, the political parties? Anybody? Where do you put the political parties? Within this four groups? Yes, Daramola.
Yes, Prof. Yes, sir. The political parties, they have high influence on anything that happens. For instance, look at the Dino stands at the collation center. They could mar or make decisions. So I want to see that they are the major stakeholders that are monitoring the events and what is to happen. So I want to put the political parties under high influence and high expectation.
Okay, so they are those ones that should be managed closely, and they they take a lot of time of the communications effort. And it should be personalized as much as possible in terms of your communication strategy.
There are network critical people that should be taken care of.
Okay.
Phones for their agents. They have agents, not the booths, not the 774 local governments, and so on and so forth.
Okay, Babatunji wants to agree or disagree with you.
I think I agree with him, sir.
Okay, okay. Does anybody disagree with both of them in terms of where to place the political parties? So, well, this is just for you to connect with it. This is a matrix that is not new to most of us, but we just want to remind you so you can know that your stakeholder engagement must start with segmentation. If your segmentation is wrong, it will likely be a problem for you. Now, I'm concluding with the tips. The first tip there is that you must build relationships. And here you are bothered about how do I move the people to become advocates of my brand. Now, all that we're talking here, even though we're talking about public sector communication, it applies also to businesses because it's talking on generally, these are best practices with respect to stakeholder engagement. So you want to ask yourself, how do I move this stakeholder from just being a stakeholder to becoming an advocate? You also want to use AI and other tools so that you will study this segment, each of your stakeholders. You will study them so that you will know what is important to them and also know how you will engage them in a way that your engagement will be valuable. Because what we do in communication is to ensure that we engage the people in a way that the engagement is valuable. If you will not add value, then there is really very little need to engage. So each time you're engaging, you must be thinking of what value am I adding to this stakeholder? And this means that if you do not have a relationship with them, you will not know what is important to them. You will not know how you will engage them to add value. And so you will not know how to tailor your messages in a way that they will feel you are really one that cares about them. And as you use either AI or whatever tools you use in learning about your different stakeholders, in your office, in your team, it's important you share the information so that whoever is handling any messaging at any particular time understands clearly the characteristics of each stakeholder so that we do not have one government, different voices. Now you must use data a lot. And this is where AI comes in. It helps you to generate data as Israel highlighted. And for you to have data-driven communication, it means that you must understand those measurable properties of customer success matrix. How do you evaluate whether your customer is happy or not with your services? So you must know your customer's current situation and you should proactively engage them with information that is relevant and beneficial. And so those measurable properties are how frequently does your customer access your product or your message? How much of how valuable is that product they're accessing or service? Are they receiving your message in a way that they are satisfied? Does your message meet their expectation? Are they able to maximize the messages you are giving them or the product that you have offered them? What is their voice of your product or service? What are they saying? Are you able to provide support to the customer when he needs the support? Now, when you have all this information, then you can use that to build your communication. And we say that you are using data to determine the nature of your engagement with the stakeholders. So that's what we mean by use data-driven communication. Now you need to also understand where each of your customer or your stakeholder falls in the engagement framework that we just discussed, having those 4 groups. So you can connect your customers only when you have value, as I mentioned. And so what you need to understand here is that you must define and standardize your engagement plans. So do not engage until you have something relevant to share. It might also be a milestone you want to celebrate, or a new feature, or training, or an update that will improve customers' experience of your product. These are ways to ensure that you are engaging only when you have value to deliver. Now you must track and analyze your engagement. Again, this is where AI comes in for you to track effectively. For every goal, you must set specific, for every campaign, you must have goals. What do you want to achieve? Specific goals. Because if you don't have specific goals, you cannot measure them. Then you should also ensure that your goals are reflected in your scorecard. The same way that you must have key performance indicators to say that what will success mean, you will identify them so that you can use that to determine whether you have succeeded or not. And so you must continuously know what has worked for you and what has not worked for you communication-wise, so that you will improve upon what has not worked and replicate what has worked. You must proactively take action. You should convert the information you have gathered, the data you have gathered about your engagements, into practical action that you can effectively say that you are able to anticipate the needs and preferences of your stakeholders. So you should set specific goals for each campaign. You should reflect on the goals, like I mentioned earlier, so that you can effectively be on the side of proactive communication. And strategic communication is about being proactive. Now, the word I wanted to go with as I conclude is that technology is wonderful, as you have seen in that lecture, and so many others. But the question you should ask yourself is that, is it really working for you? It is not about how wonderful technology is. If it doesn't work for you, then you must fine-tune. It is not important. So you must research and know which digital tools will help you to achieve your results. You must also know which ones to put your money to, especially that I had somebody asking which ones are cheap, which ones are free. Most of this, if you really want to go AI, most of them you must also pay some money, in the sense that you have to customize certain components to suit your peculiarities. Anyone that is free is just the basic functionality, and so you may not be able to maximize it. And so I have suggestions here, some 10 top stakeholder management solutions that you want to check up. Most of them are things you have to pay for. I have them in 2 slides. So you have to look them up, and under it, there's explanation of what each of them can help you to do. Most importantly, in your engagement, you must always know that there is another level that is better than where you are today. And so you must keep moving up from satisfactory to very good, to from excellent to outstanding. And when you get to outstanding, there is another satisfactory, there's another very good, it keeps going on and on. And that indeed is the only way you can ensure that you are able to meet effectively the expectations of your stakeholders. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a very long one, but this is when we would take your interventions and your questions. Thank you. The floor is open now. Thank you so much. Yes. Go ahead, Ma. Thank you, Felix, for your feedback. Do you have questions, comments? Very interesting. Thank you. Lale, any question, any intervention, or you just want to give an example to connect what we have discussed in the 2 modules with any of your workplace experiences? That would be very helpful. Yes, Daramola. you can unmute yourself and speak. Daramola, your hand is up. You have been recognized to speak. Okay. You can't unmute? No, try again. You can actually unmute. Try again, Daramola.
Okay, Prof, sir, thank you very much, sir. I want to thank you for delivering a very powerful this thing for us. I look at the thing, and when I look at it, the derivatives are all very good for us, sir. But the one government, one voice, I think is the most ideal thing, based on especially on the advice you have given. When we look at the situation in the country, when the governors are saying one thing, and the president is saying another thing. So in this case, if the government is trying to say, something, and we are not, it's not in our interest, what do we do? In a situation whereby the governor of the state will be saying, this is what I want, no chairman must say this. In the case of where governors are deducting local government funds, and the governor will call everybody and say, if they have to say, I'm not deducting your money, and the chairmen are feeling the pain, what do we do in this case? What the governors are doing is actually wrong, but for us to have one voice, we may not be able to say what they are doing is wrong. What do we do in this situation, sir?
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm saying that this is a good question. I would want to benefit from contribution from the class. We have very experienced public sector communicators here. He has thrown up a challenge using our one government, one voice lesson. How do you address the challenge? I hope you got him. Daramola, help us put your question just one more time. I think.
Yes, sir. Prof, sir, I'm trying to look at the issue of one government, one voice, like you have said during the overview, sir. But there are situations whereby we find that things are not okay. Let's use the case of a state government as an instance, or a state governor as an instance. He's deducting local government funds. They will call out the chairman and will say, okay, if they ask you whether I'm deducting your money, just tell them that we are not deducting your money. In the real sense of it, they are deducting local government money from the source. So what do we do? And the integrity and image of the local government is at stake because they don't have money to perform. The governors are outshine them with their performance. So what do we do in this case?
Okay, and we tell you that public relations ethics says you shouldn't tell lies. So your governor is deducting money of local government, not Daramola's governor, it's just a case study. And they don't want you to talk about it. How will you address such a situation? Let's have some contribution from the class. Chekube, you want to speak? Your microphone is unmuted. Do you want to speak? You want to attempt to respond to that?
Not really. Sorry.
Okay, help us mute your microphone. Who wants to attempt? What do you do in this kind of situation? There are so many public sector communicators here. Let's have your advice to a public relations officer who is faced with this challenge. Are we tired or what is happening? Let's have some contribution. Okay, the challenge really that Daramola has put out is to say that the government is not doing well. And we keep saying in public relations that you will be more effective when you encourage your organization and help your organization to do the right thing always. But this is a situation where you have a conflict of what the government is trying to gag you from giving the right information. What is important is, first of all, whether you have been courageous enough to provide expert advice on the implication of that kind of action. Because if you are proactive, you will be able to map this problem and probably provide solutions with respect to how to avoid getting into this situation in the first instance. So proactivity is important. You need to ensure that you don't wait until you are faced with this kind of challenge. At all times, you should study what is happening in your organization, and you should provide advices to your chief executive. If it is a local government, you are managing a local government chairman, you must have provided him some information. That way, you are able to respond effectively. The question is, your action will be dependent on whether you are managing information at the state level, and so you're dealing with the government directly, or you're working with the local government who, the chairman who doesn't want you to give the correct information. I think that when you have that clearly sorted out, you will then be able to understand how best to advise your principal. But let's take the scenario of you are working in a local government and you're managing the information machinery for that local government. There are things that the state government is doing, like deduction of your money, and yet the governor will always say, I have given autonomy to the local government. I'm not touching their kobo. I know of situations, even in my state, where that is always the song of the governor. But the truth of the matter is, the money is released to the local government, but the state government helps them to tell them how to spend it. By, for instance, saying, okay, we want, we have, His Excellency has approved training for all local government employees in the area of data capture. They will appoint a consultant to come and you are to pay him. There are also situations where the monies are released to you, but you are given a list that is not official to say, these are political party activities that you need to fund. These are some of the challenges you find when you're managing information at that level. It's good for you when you get to an office like that. If you're new, take your time to study the different scenarios and provide some suggestions to your chief executive in terms of how to ensure that you balance the two sides. Because the people, when they don't get the services they are supposed to get, they know how much that comes to the local government, because these things are no longer hidden. You can access it on the internet to know how much each local government got in each quarter or in each month, for instance. So you must help to put on the table the various interests that need to be satisfied, in as much as your chairman cannot run away from doing the bidding of his principal, especially that most of the chairmen are not elected. it's also important for you to identify beforehand some of the interests of the people, some of the projects that will have high impact, so that even when all the money may not go into that, but you are able to have still have some money that can go into high impact projects. So when you are cornered to talk about whether the state government is taking your money or not, you already have projects that you can talk about without having to lie that state government is not taking your money. But you have something to provide as a positive diversion for people to see what you are able to do as a local government. But when you don't have anything to talk about, then you have this challenge of how do I respond to this question? And so you must help your local government chairman, your local government management, to be able to identify the different areas of needs, because that in itself is a communication function. You also probably be able to utilize some of the data tools to help to see how you can scientifically prioritize some of these needs and make it available to the management. Of course, the works people will do their own, the finance people will do their own. But what is important is that is the management of the local government aware of the needs of the people? Are they aware of the true situation of how the people are feeling about this or that? And if they have the information, you have solved first problem. The next problem is how do they move to satisfy those needs within the limited resources available. And I think that as a manager of information, you should be able to have your response to give if you have this challenge of there's information that your office wants to hide. Most times, when you talk about information management, it is not necessarily that you have to lie. It's about knowing what information to emphasize and what information to simply provide explanation on. If the situation is not good, acknowledge it's not good, but they want you to tell them what you are doing to ensure that that problem is addressed. So that is my take on that. But I can see that there was one hand that came up. I don't know if it's a question or you want to contribute to this debate. There was a hand that came up. Was it by accident? Yes, Yunusa. You want to contribute to this issue or you have a different issue? Go ahead and speak. Unmute yourself. Yunusa, can you unmute yourself and speak? Okay. If there is no contributor, let's go to the chat box to see if there's any question. You're going to have the two modules. Registrar, I hope you can send it to their email, or do we just drop them in the chat box here?
We can drop them here.
Most times when you drop them,
But we can also
those that do
we
not
can also send to their email.
We tell you they can't access them.
We can send to their email, so please send us soft copy.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. If there's no question, I shall hand over to the registrar to educate us on how we're going to get our certificates and if there are other announcements and information from the Institute. It's been a wonderful day engaging with you. It's a Friday. I know that some of us might want to go for prayers, and so the earlier we finish, the better. Registrar, sir, you may wish to take over the microphone. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Alejo.
And thank you, distinguished professional colleagues, for being also a wonderful audience. I'm sure we are going home richer than we came in this morning. We want to thank the two facilitators for today. I want to believe that we all registered, because that's what will be used to produce the certificates, so that in future you don't say there's an error in my certificate in the name and all of that. Please.
I think they should better type the name in capital for you in the chat box now, sir. It's
Okay.
better.
Please retype in the chat box within the next 5 minutes, so that we can allow those that want to go for, so that we can allow those that want to go, your name and your chapter, so that we can allow those that want to go for, to the mosque to take their leave. The certificates will be ready in about 2 weeks.
Okay, the names are dropping already.
Hello, Professor. Sorry, I couldn't link up earlier.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon.
I have been on the road, so the signal has been terribly bad, so I missed most of the discussions.
Oh, sorry about that. But we thank God for the safe arrival.
Yes, I was trying to say one or two things on the issue of public relations, and as an advisor to either a government or to a local government council chairman, okay, as you have raised. Some of these things are not cast in stone, Professor, you know. And as a public relations person, as long as you don't run your personal office, then you are completely under the radar, because as a public relations person, you need you to do. So if the governor says he has given local government people money, when we know giving that money, you are, because what are you going to say? Actually, but politically, these are things you cannot do, because there are so many issues involved process. But as a public relations person, you are expected, you know, to first defend your principle. So I don't know whether that would amount to lying, or it amounts to just playing the game. Said that, I think generally politics or in governance, generally, when you sit down and a decision is made, whether you agree with that decision on the larger population, if in a board meeting you have about 10 board members and about 6 of them agree that a particular position is taken, what the other 4 board members feel, the position of the 6 board members stand. So you, as the public relations person, need to report exactly what, you know, that board has decided. So I don't know, is there any difference? Is there any contradiction in this, taking this position, and what you think as a public relations person, Professor?
I think the thing to say is that there is nothing like protecting, playing games. There's, you know, ethics are things that we must be very mindful of these days, because that is what makes you stand out from your competitors. It's just like saying that you should play, a child should play with fire or knife and all that. These are things that can ruin your credibility. And so it is better to find a more professional way to manage information than to tell lies or to assume you are playing games. And of course, there should be situations where you should be able to tell your principal, this thing will not work this way. Like I said, you know the result they want to achieve. Suggest to them other ways they can get the same result. Don't just think that you are to take, if you are taking information from them, our directive how they want to do your job, then what is the professionalism in your case? You should have suggestions to them. They have the problem. You should be able to look into your tools and provide them solutions that will make you to retain your professionalism without having to bend the rules. Because in the final analysis, it puts your credibility at in question, and it will ruin your subsequent activities. Because when people lose trust and confidence in you, it becomes difficult for you to regain that. I don't know if that has been helpful.
Prof, sir.
Yes.
Prof, sir. Sorry, sir. I want to raise an issue of concern too, sir. One of the ethics of a PR is integrity, sir.
Yes.
Protect the integrity. Hello, sir. Am I with you, sir?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes, sir. To protect the integrity of the organization and possibly the leadership or the management of that place.
Yes.
With what is happening today, coupled with the fact that there are no jobs elsewhere, some of these people that will feel they have God, they don't have God, they will just tell you, go and work it out.
I have lost you now, sir.
If you are trying, sir?
I lost part of what you were saying, sir. Only
okay, so
I heard from the point you said
in Nigeria,
some of these people that have no job, and this time that there's no job.
Yes, sir. The moment if you are trying to be to prove, hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
They will want to show somebody out of the system. So, but I think what matters is I want us to promote professionalism, sir. If that man knows that, okay, this man, he may not be able to get enough profession. I mean, get another professional is still going to be the same thing. I think is the best thing. It is for us, the only line to maintain the sanctity and integrity of this profession so that they will not just be telling us. For instance, we have seen cases whereby organizations want to say, okay, if it's public relations officer, let's employ somebody that studied English, that don't know anything about the ethics. Somebody that related at all. So I still want to advise that we stick to it, just like what you said. No matter the situation, truth will always prevail. They may want to fire the person, but know fully well that if they fire the person, the other will help with the system.
Yeah, you know, the cost of doing the wrong thing, firing the person might look cheap, but in the final analysis, the cost for the organization might be higher because integrity is not something you can easily quantify. And like you said, at the end of the day, truth prevails. When organizations make mistakes, with time they get to understand that. It's just that in the case of public sector, most times we don't seem to care because we don't have that business-mindedness. We assume that government doesn't lose, and that even if government loses, it doesn't affect us. And so sometimes you find people taking decisions that could have been handled differently, and they are so careless about it. But it's better for you to resign than for you to do something that will ruin your reputation, and the job you're trying to protect, you will still become ineffective at the end of the day.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, sir.
Let me come back again. I think I don't want us to make the mistake of trying to tie the discussion around either lying. As professionals, as a PR specialist or as a perception manager, you are expected to advise a principal. Let's even assume you don't work within the organization. You are a consultant, and then there is a challenge in an organization, and you are asked, to provide, consultancy services in terms of how do we manage this crisis. Now, as a professional, you will provide the tools and give guidance to that organization on what exactly they should do. It does not mean that organization must necessarily take everything you have said, lock, stock, and barrel. They might agree, yeah, platform 1, 2, 3 is okay, but we don't agree with platform 4. That doesn't make you a liar. That doesn't make you non-professional. Rather, maybe what you have provided, as far as that organization is concerned, they are not comfortable with the 4th choice, but they are comfortable with 3 of your choices. So and that's why we are professionals anyway, because what you need to do is to provide suggestions and say, I think this can happen or can go this way. We also don't have a monopoly of knowledge. The fact that we are public relation experts does not mean we have answers to everything. We might provide a lot of indices to show that, well, if you do it this way, these are the likely scenarios. And if you do it the other way, these are the also likely scenarios. So I think let us pull back a bit from trying to say, oh, a public relation officer is not expected to lie. It's like a lawyer. If you come and present your case to a lawyer and tell him that this is what has happened, you are guilty on this side, the lawyer goes to court to prove the other way. That doesn't mean the lawyer is lying. He's a professional. But you need to provide, analysis and analogy that will convince your client that what you are doing is right. If your client does not agree with you totally, that doesn't mean, you have lied or he is wrong. So I don't know if you get exactly what I'm trying to say, Prof.
I get your point, and I agree by half. Because even for lawyers, for lawyers, there are lawyers that know their worth and they reject some cases.
Yes.
There are cases that your hand shouldn't be part of it.
Exactly.
So if your organization insists that certain things be done and you know that it will affect both the organization and also yourself. Better,
and your ethics.
It's better for you to
pull back.
Yes.
Yeah,
I also agree that we shouldn't arrogate to ourselves too much power, thinking that we don't have monopoly of solutions.
Solutions,
yes.
exactly.
So I agree with you on that.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, dear colleagues. I wish you a very nice week. I believe that the registrar has collated the numbers, and so he will reach you. I'm also sure he has noted the suggestion that maybe sending it directly to you might be better. I believe that the secretariat used to have that arrangement. So long as you can pay for it, they will be happy to send it to you. So you can send email if that is what you want. You can send email, and the secretariat will tell you what it will cost to send your certificate by courier. Registrar, if you are still in the house, I hope that option is still there. Matthew. Is Matthew in the house? Okay. Is there anybody from the Secretariat that can confirm that the idea of participants who want to get their certificate by courier can arrange with Secretariat to get it? Is there anybody who is in the house that can confirm from the Secretariat, please?
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, Tonya, thank you.
If there's anyone who wishes to their certificate to be sent, should send a mail to Mr. Eku, so we'll get back to the person on the cost of courier.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, we are done. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much, and you too.
All
We
right.
enjoyed this.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Good
Prof.
afternoon, everyone. Enjoy your weekends, colleagues.
Thank you. Yeku, I've sent you
My
the
sister,
slides.
Palola, how are you, ma?
I've sent you the slides, so try and send them.
Prof, thank you.
Thank you. If you can download the slides also, I can send them in the chat box for those who can download.
Prof, I thought they said they are going to send it to our
Kindly
email.
send by email, sir.
They will send them by email, but I mean, if somebody wants to download, in case that delays, because
Yes, you can go ahead. We can download.
Mr. Sir,
Okay.
why are you sending additional money for Korea when you have link with our various chapters that you can actually send through?
Yeah, they will normally can send them to your chapters, actually.
So needless of send to personal, except those who want anyway. But I feel it's safer to send it through chapter than individual.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you. Bye-bye,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Thank you, Prof.
I've put one on the chat box. I'm putting the second one now.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes, sir.
The police. Yeah.
So you can download them. Tony, I think you can also download if you are using a system. Tony, are you still in the house? Tony, are you still in the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've sent them to Yeku, but they are also in the chat box.
Okay, sir.
Maybe you can download, or you want me to send them to you on WhatsApp, I can do that. Which one do you prefer?
On WhatsApp.
Okay, I'll send it. Why I'm doing this is I want them to get this materials, letters tomorrow, if they can't get it today. So they are in your WhatsApp now, Antonia.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. So yeah.